1 o'clock, we're ready to go. I have chat open. It's good to see all of you. There's 60 of us here. Great first number. Sam's going to be here if you have questions, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat too. So just to make sure you're in the right place, this is Pop YS Live for February. This is the first time we've ever had Pop YS Live. Whoa! Okay, so let's get it going. See, Pop YS Live for February. Whoa! Okay. So for those of you that don't know me, I am Angie Manfredi. I am the Youth Services Consultant for the State Library of Iowa. This is my contact information, my email and my phone number. You're going to see it again at the end, but I always like to start off with it. And as you know, I always like to start off with an adorable picture of me doing something adorable in an Iowa library. So this is me at the Strawberry Point Public Library posing with one of their puppets. Who was obviously an octopus and who obviously I had my hand in. So you're going to get all of my contact information again, but I always like to put it at the front so that you can see how to get a hold of me. At the end of this session, you're going to get an email from the continuing education address, which is Sam. You're going to get an email with a link to a survey. The survey is going to be how you get the CE credit, and attached to the email is going to be this entire PowerPoint deck. So this entire slide deck is going to come attached. So that's the first thing before we go any farther, and that's the other reason my contact information is here, because you can easily click on it to send me emails when you get this slide deck. But the other reason I'm telling you that is so that you don't panic throughout the course of this and be like, oh, I didn't get to write down everything she said, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's who I am. Now what are we doing? What we're up to today. We're going to go over a very brief overview of what is Pop YS Live, since as I previously mentioned, this is the first one ever. And then we're going to look at today's theme. And today's theme, this month's theme, February's theme, is book-based programming for ages 8 to 18. And we're going to talk a little bit about why that, what that means, what that looks like. We're going to talk about why books in 2020. We're going to talk about what are some ideas that could get you going, which ones are popular titles, which could fit in for this. And we're going to look at different kinds of book-related programming that you can do, because the one thing I want to make sure that you leave today's session with is the idea that there's so many different kinds of programs that you can build around books. It's not just the one kind of thing where everybody gets together and like 4 of you sit around and discuss a book. And I'm going to give you some examples of how to actually run a program. So the one thing I have to stress that you have all heard me say many times is that unfortunately there is no magical thing that you're going to get a box at your library and you open it up and the program is in it and you can run it that exact way. Because the one thing we know is that all of our libraries and all of our communities are very different. So there is literally no such thing as one size fits all. But to me, because I am how I am, I find that thrilling. I find that exciting, because what that means is that you can customize and tailor things for whatever size library you are. These programs are scalable for if you get 10 kids or if you get 100. And so that's the exciting part. The exciting part is there is no one way to do this. And you can, in my favorite thing that I always tell you, if I give you 5 great ideas and you only like one of them, don't feel bad about throwing out the other 4. You take what works for you and you make it work with the space that you have and the staff that you have and the community that you have, as well as all the things you want to build. So the bad news is you don't just get a box and out comes the program and you do it exactly this way. But the good news is you don't just get a box and out comes the program and that's the way you do it, because that is not what life in a children's public library is like. Is it? It is never the way you thought it was going to be, is it? When was the last time you had something go according to plan and didn't have a toddler throw up on your shoes in the middle of what you were doing? So that's some larger ideas to keep us in mind as we head forward with this. So that having been said, what is Pop YS? Some of you have been to the summer trainings, have already heard this, and I'm sure you'll all hear it multiple times. Pop YS mostly reflects my difficulty in naming things and the amazing and incredible assists I had from the staff at the State Library here. Pop YS is a new continuing education everything for youth services. The first thing it is these webinars. And it's continuing ed series of webinars once a month, every month. It's a quick pop of continuing education, something that just pops right in and it pops new ideas in your brains and it gets you going and gets you popping and gets you thinking. Not the same thing, always switching it up. It's going to address all issues of youth services. It's going to address collection development. We're going to have outside presenters. But, and this is the important part, you are the drivers. This is for you. I want you to tell me what you want to see and I'll do it. Like I'm your trained circus animal. I will jump through the hoop. You hold up the hoop and I as the lion will jump through the hoop. If you missed the collection development webinars, we had a really great time with those, didn't we? We did 8 months worth of those. We could do those forever. If you missed the collection development webinars and you feel like you want those as well, I want to hear about that. If you have another great idea that you want just to show up one time in PopYS, I want to hear about that. That is the whole goal of this. The goal of this is that we can find out what you want and we can find out what you need the most, okay? So that's what we're looking for. One of the things is they're the last Thursday of the month from 1 to 2. If you can't make that time, all of these are archived and posted on the State Library website. But as per, sometimes you just have to pull the trigger and find a time. And this is what we came up with, which is the last Thursday from 1 to 2. This is the first one, and it's only the beginning. But that's what PopYS is. Also because Iowa and popcorn, and it makes more sense if you, okay. The other thing PopYS is a newsletter. So we've also created a monthly YS newsletter that will feature pops of continuing education. And this is PopYS Live. So the newsletter is one thing, and this is the live version of it. They're both called PopYS, and they're part of the new 2020 Future for Continuing Education for Youth Services. So there we go. Yes, and the newsletter will tell you what the theme is. It'll have links to when the archives are posted. It'll tell you what the upcoming ones are. It'll link to other continuing education stuff I think is good, as well as also have like resources I like or libraries I visited. So they're together one creature. PopYS Live is the webinar and PopYS is the newsletter. So that's what I want to hear from you. I'm going to stress that again at the end, but this is what I want to know. I am your circus elephant. I want to jump through the hoop. If you're like, these are cool and I love them and they're really useful, but I need the collection development ones, or these are really cool and they're super useful, but I want this as a feature in it. That's what we want to hear. And that's what PopYS is. So this is our first ever PopYS session. I'm going to stop making jazz hands, or am I? And we're going to get started on this month's topic. February 2020. This is book-based programming for ages 8 to 18. I see someone in the chat has asked how we got the newsletter, and I'm guessing that at this time, Sam Bowers is working on getting you a link to that. But if she doesn't drop it in there, I will include it in the email that comes with the survey for this. For those of you that are not already signed up for the newsletter, if you were listed in the Iowa Youth Services directory as a youth person, you automatically got subscribed to it. And the next issue should go out, fingers crossed, tomorrow, but might not be until Monday because I got sick yesterday. So, but here we are, book-based programming for ages 8 to 18. Books in 2020, it's more likely than you might think. I never get tired of that. You feel like I would, but I don't. Okay. Here's the thing, and I'm going to be real honest with you, and we're going to just start straight up with this. More than anything, with librarians, I appreciate your unceasing desire to get new people into the library and to make sure that every person in your community knows what the library has to offer. This is in fact one of your superpowers. But one of the things I want to talk to you for real right here, and you're going to see throughout the course of this, is I want you to give a moment or two to think about the nerds that already use the library. There might only be 1 or 2, but 1 or 2 is how you build with things. And when we talk about book-based programming, so much of this is take a moment to focus on the kids you already have coming in. The kids who read 800 books, the kids whose parents are homeschoolers, and they make them come in and check out books. Book-based programming builds on the strengths. They find our natural allies in the community. They find people who already have real high affinity for the library and want to come in and use the library. And that is a great place to start building program from. So the fact is, connecting patrons with books is still an area we can excel on as experts. There are so many things we can excel on experts. Believe me, I know. It's endless. The list goes on and on and on, right? But books is still a thing that's really primary in a lot of people's minds, and we should take advantage of that. We want to build on our brand, as they say in marketing. I'm sorry I said that ever, but we want to build on our brand. We want to build on what we already have. So that's one of the reasons book-based programming can be so powerful. And here's the deal, y'all. They're already into it. So this is stuff they are already associating with the library, they're already coming into the library for, and they already have a natural hunger for. These were literally just off the top of my head, some of the properties that are the biggest elements or discussion things in kids' lives. So Pete the Cat, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the Rainbow Fairy Magic books, the Amulet series, the Naruto manga, The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. This week, The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, which is a movie, they turned it into a movie, has been on the New York Times bestseller list for 3 straight years. 3 years. It's been on the New York Times bestseller list for 3 straight years. That's how many copies of it have sold. That's how many lives it's been part of. So all of this stuff, what we think of as fandoms or what we think of as what they're already excited about, this is stuff they already are into, that we don't have to be like, have you guys heard about A Diary of a Wimpy Kid? It's really quite funny. These are things they're already excited about, they already know about, and so we're, again, just building on what they already have. So, books open doors. They're a way for us to say, yes, we have the stuff you're into. Yeah, we have that. We have that. We have comic books. Yeah, we have the books that when you open them up, there are pictures inside. Yeah, we have that. Yeah, we have that book you heard about that was on Netflix. Yeah, we have that book that they turned into a movie. Yeah, we have that. We have that. We want to hear what you want. You're going to hear me come back to that over and over and over again. This is a perfect chance for you to open up conversations. And here's the deal. You've heard me say this in the summer reading thing a lot. There is only one proven way to make children lifelong readers, and it is this: to give them the choice to read what they want. We all became lifelong readers because we were told that reading could be fun. We saw that modeled in adults, or maybe we never saw that modeled in adults, but we read one book that we loved, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is cool. When we do this, we build lifelong connections, and we build positive associations that last with libraries all the way through to 20 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, when they're voting on library bonds, when they're on our library committees, on our library boards. We build these bonds that matter. And they give us a chance to say, my all-time favorite thing, let's give it a try. Let's give it a go. Let's give it a try. Because there's a lower level for, I've never heard of this before, it's so radical, I will not, your friends say I'm not going to pay for that, the board says I can't support that. They're always going to say that to something or another, but when you're building from books, again, you have that right in, that natural connection. It allows you to try things with programming that you might not have ever been able to try otherwise. And books equal popular culture. There is not a product that exists that they haven't already created tie-in material for, okay? Like there is not a property that exists that they have not made tons and tons of books for. This week, Star Wars, Lucasfilm, announced that their next big initiative was not going to be films at all, it was going to be all book-based. They're abandoning films for a while to concentrate on books. They're creating a whole new series called The High Republic. It's going to be like the Jedi, but in King Arthur time, like 200 years before the Skywalker movies. That's because books and pop culture, they go together. There is not a property that doesn't exist that doesn't have books that go with it. Scooby-Doo, My Little Pony, Star Wars, don't even get me started on Star Wars, Garfield, Captain Underpants. We had events for all those things at the library that I worked at. And what we did after the event was we put out the piles and piles of books we had on Scooby-Doo, My Little Pony, Star Wars, Garfield, Captain Underpants. They would check out literally shelves. We had shelves full of Star Wars books, Star Wars comic books, Star Wars chapter books, Star Wars YA books, Star Wars readers, Star Wars picture books. They checked them all out. It's a natural connection. It's intellectual property is what they call it, IP. That's the vulgar word to hear about it, but oh yeah, I'm super excited to hear about Star Wars too. If you ever want to talk about Star Wars, I'd like to talk about it. If you're interested, Google High Republic. Okay. Also, comics and manga. I say this all the time. If you went back 20 years ago, Iron Man was nothing. He was a third-rate Marvel hero. Marvel had already sold off the important characters. They'd sold off the stuff that they needed for money. Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four. Those are what the people cared about. The X-Men. They sold off their 3 most important properties. They had left a bunch of B-list heroes. And with the power of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they turned them into the most dominant forces in children's imaginative lives. Iron Man, a B-list nothing, Tony Stark alcoholic, and kids love him more than anything. And that's based on intellectual property that they've turned into comics and readers and chapter books and YA books. They're all tied together. That is books, even if it sounds like pop culture. Books to movies, especially now with Netflix. Netflix is buying them up right and left. They put them on Netflix. Kids can watch them 10 or 15 times. I had kids that when that To All the Boys I Loved Before adaptation from Jenny Han came out, they watched it like 4 times over the course of 1 weekend because it was already there on their TV. 13 Reasons Why, okay? Those were streaming immediately. You don't have to go to the movie theater to see them. They're right there, right? So they're tied into that. So they're tied into those things. So books and pop culture, they're natural affinity, and they're great for building on what they already know. Somebody mentioned anime. I'm going to mention that briefly. Also, I want to tell you that I already have scheduled someone to do a whole one of these Pop YS things just on manga and anime because I know that's a big issue. So one of my really good friends is going to do a whole one of these on that just for us. Sneak preview. Okay. So right now, this is the part where I'm asking you. I'm going to stop talking for 1 second. I know you find that hard to believe. I want in the chat, what are the most popular books and series at your library? Thinking about some of the context I've already given you, some of the examples I've already given you, Star Wars, Iron Man, that counts too. What are some of the most popular? And I want you to look at everybody's answers and I want you to see how many things come up in common, okay? Wings of Fire, I Survived. Rick Riordan, Dogman, 2 Dogmans. What does Dogman have in common with somebody else? Captain Underpants. Those have Dave Pilkey in common. Dogman, graphic novels, Amulet, Junie B, Magic Treehouse, Dogman. God, I know. You know, I got my nephew a signed Dogman book, a whole bunch of signed Dave Pilkey stuff, and he drew me the cutest picture. I'll send it all to you guys. It says, I'm the best aunt. I Survived, Dan Gutman, Fancy Nancy, still Harry Potter, 20 years and still Harry Potter. Wings of Fire, Dork Diaries, Magic Treehouse, Star Wars, drama, the Raina Telgemeier books, everything by Raina Telgemeier, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Who Was, Gordon Corman, Harry Potter, Big Nate, Sequest, Gauntlet, Hunger Games, and Hunger Games is coming back. Hunger Games is coming back, right? The new Hunger Games book is going to bring it all back. Geronimo Stilton, Babysitter's Club, everything. Okay, Dork Diaries, Timmy Failure, now a movie, now a series of movies on Disney Plus. That again takes us to that that crossover. Warriors, oh, those cats. Okay, so look at, first of all, see how many things have come over in common. Also, what if I told you that I know libraries, or at the library that I worked at, I know libraries, or my personal library, have all hosted basic events on all these things. We had a Captain Underpants party. We had a Dogman party. We had a Wings of Fire book club. We had an I Survived book club. I know many libraries that have had Raina Telgemeier book club. We had a comic book club. All of this is to take you back to the same theory from all of this. None of this is reinventing the wheel. None of this is something that you can't borrow, modify, take elements from. And one of the reasons I'm having you fill all this, I had so many of you answer this, and I want you to keep answering it. I want you to keep saying things in here, is to see how many of those kept happening. How many of those reoccurring topics kept coming up. Same thing. So yeah, my kids like that too. Oh yeah, that circulates really well. Oh, that was popular for a while, but it's not anymore. All of this, again, speaks to the imagination, the repeat. Like I said about the 20 years of Harry Potter, it's been over 20 years since the first Harry Potter book came out. It's been over 20 years since the first Harry Potter book came out. And Ames just had a Yule Ball again, and like 400 people came over 20 years later. So all of that is to keep in mind as we go through these. Yes, I Survived as graphic novels now. Yeah. And they also have spin-offs, right? So that's the other tie-in that we'll look at some of these. Todd Trixie Belden. The kids in my library had stopped reading Trixie Belden, but they were still so into Nancy Drew. They hated the Hardy Boys, but they're so into Nancy Drew. And now there's a Nancy Drew TV show where she's young, cute. There's a Katie Keene TV show. There's a Riverdale TV show. Riverdale's really crazy. If you don't watch that, it's like the weirdest show I've ever seen in my life. Archie was in The Mob for a while. Okay. Yeah. Look at your circ numbers. Look at what is the most returned books. If you don't know, if you're like, what are the most popular books in my library? I don't know. What does go out? I feel like I know, but I would like to see the numbers. Look at your circ numbers. See what is the most requested. See what you have replaced 800 times because they keep falling apart. Do they bind the dog mind books with like do they sew them together? Look at the bestsellers. Like that's why I mentioned The Hate U Give. The Hate U Give has been a New York Times bestseller for 3 years. You don't sell that kind of copies without getting into conversations about things. Look what's a movie. Look what is on Netflix, right? Most important part, voice and choice, voice and choice, voice and choice, voice and choice. That means we give all kid readers, we give all teen readers a voice and a choice in what they want to read. We are not the school. We do not make them read anything. Even the things we wish they would read, even the things we think they should read, we do not make them read anything. That is the gift of the public library. And there's lots of places. This is a list. Again, you're going to get an email to this. Your email is going to have a copy of this slide deck, so it's going to have a copy of these. But Children's and Teen Choice Book Awards, these are always a great place to look for books. The first is a Children and Teen Book Award. It's awarded by the Children's Book Council. The 2019 winner for not the youngest picture book one was a picture book based on Back to the Future. Yeah, it was published like as a novelty book and children loved it because who doesn't love that story? It's a classic. But it's voted on, these are awards that are all voted on only by children and teens. They are only voted on by kids and teens. The YALSA Teens Top 10 for the past year was a book called hashtag Murder Trending. Yeah, probably not going to win the National Book Award, but teens like to read it, okay? The Goldfinch, the Children's Choice, the Teen Award, and the High School Book Award, and the Bridge to Reading Award are Iowa-specific awards. They are awards voted by Iowa kids. Voice and choice. These are the books that they feel most passionately about. These are the books that we're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, okay. Back to the Future sounds great. Let's read a picture book on it. Okay. Teens Top 10, YALSA's Teens Top 10 at the library I worked at, we printed out the YALSA Teens Top 10 stickers and we would put them on the spines of the book. And sometimes teens would tell us those were the only books they wanted to check out. They would literally go through and look only for the Teens Top 10 books. That's all they were interested in because the rest they were like, whatever. So voice and choice, voice and choice. So much of this kind of programming comes down to voice and choice. That's what builds passion. Okay. Are you all feeling hyped? I'm ready to do this. I'm ready. I feel hyped. I feel excited. I feel like I see the connections. I feel like I see the possibilities. I feel like I see the doors. I feel like I see the excitement. I feel like the audience is built in. I'm ready to do this. I have some sad news. It's time to read the book. I know. I don't want to do it either. No, I say this all the time. Look, you don't have to read every Wings of Fire book. I got through one, and that was enough for the rest of my life. Similar with the Warriors book. I read one. I'm good. But here's the thing. And you don't have to tell them, I hate Warriors. Why do they keep talking about the clans? But you have to have some kind of passing familiarity with this. I'm going to use a couple examples of this, of how once I read the book, it gave me a whole different, I was able to take it on the whole way. I sat down one time, I read every single one of the Dogman books, took like an hour, read them all, we're good, I can have that conversation. You gotta read the book. You gotta read the book that you're gonna be excited about. I wish there were another way around it. I wish there were some kind of escape that you could do, but you have to read the book. And we're gonna come back to that a couple times throughout this. And the next step I think is really critical in your planning stage of this is you need to decide what type of program you're going to try. I think every one of these has merits. We're going to look at every one a little bit in depth. We're going to look about the pros and the cons of them. I think there can be some mixture between them. I think there can be some crossover, but so much of this takes us back to time to read the book, time to actually read it. So much of this comes down to focus. You saw all those answers that came up, right? There were dozens of them, and there were even more. And you're going to find even more when you look at all these other resources. So there's tons and tons. So much of this comes down to focus, because so much of this is going to be successful based on the focus. So that's the other thing about read the book. I'm not saying you have to read every single one of these, every single I Survived book, every single Trixie Belden book. I'm not saying you have to read every single one of them, but that takes us back to focus. To make these successful, you have to have that kind of focus. And that's really why I've broken them down into these 3 sections. So what we call at the library I worked at, and what a lot of libraries call them, and again, some of this is semantics, but we'll talk about what that means, is parties, okay? Celebrations, words matter, okay? A single day event, multiple day events, a personal favorite, celebrating the author's birthday. Literally, you can do this at your library. We used to do this library I worked at. They're doing it literally this week. I was just talking to my old coworker there. They bought a sheet cake for Dave Pilkey's birthday. They have a bunch of like Dogman stuff out, and it's Dave Pilkey's birthday. The kids are going to come all sign a birthday card to him. They're all going to get a piece of cake. They're going to talk about how much they love Dave Pilkey. Boom. Check out all the Dave Pilkey books. See you later. Have a piece of cake. Specific dates, the Yule Ball. So a lot of libraries do this as an alternate to holiday programming, especially for older kids. Yule Ball centered around Harry Potter. Salt Lake City Public Library has had this Yule Ball literally for like almost 20 years going. May the 4th be with you, which is now turned into Revenge of the 5th, et cetera, et cetera. A Star Wars themed day, a single day, a party celebration day. So parties, focusing on one book. Boop, 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 boop. Focusing on one book. One of the most successful events I ever did in my career as a librarian, and will always be, even if I become the Librarian of Congress, was when we hosted the midnight release party for the last Twilight book. The teen girls began to cry when we brought it out at midnight. We had teen boys and girls, the party, we made face glitter, they put glitter on. We talked about vampires for like 3 straight hours. We wheeled out a book at midnight when it came out, and they cried, and we gave away a copy. Here's the thing. I lived in a town, I think that many of you live in a town similar, that did not have a bookstore. So we had the book release parties. And sometimes we would get the friends of the library to donate a little extra money so we could have a copy to give away. We did the things that a bookstore would have done in our town. But at the same time, it built the hype, it built the discussion for that book. I talked about Twilight more. I talked about Twilight more that year that I still have traumatic flashbacks. It was great, no regrets. Doing a book group style. We're not going to say the word book group. It's a big downer, but I'm going to give you some examples of it, all discussing one book. You can promote this for longer. There's a great way to build partnerships through this way. Again, people who think this is our area of expertise, this is our way to do it. And this is where you get involved with multiple copies, having multiple copies of it in your library, in your community. So this one book model. Then the multi-book model. Okay, having a manga club, looking at different types of manga. Everybody's into this one genre. We're all going to come and talk about fantasy books. We're all going to talk about mythology books. All genre-based instead of one book, instead of a party. We're going to get to see the newest books first. Far and away, for 11 straight years, I ran the teen group at the library I worked at. We met once a month, the 3rd Thursday of every month. We met once a month. The biggest thing they loved was getting to see the new books first. And so much of this was tied to knowing what was new and knowing what was cool. And that takes us back to that currency, knowing what was new and knowing what was cool. And it also talks about building on the kids we already have coming in there and that love us so much and that we can make such a difference in their life. So let's take a little closer look at that. As an aside, I see that Taylor mentioned The One and Only Ivan. The One and Only Ivan is being turned into a film. As some of you may know, there is a sequel coming out, and they sent us an early review copy of the sequel, and I cried my face off about it. It's going to be super good. So, parties. I'm sure will come as a surprise to you that I am starting with parties. I'm going to give you the rundown. Here's how it ran. 1 hour program. Boop, boop, boop. Don't dedicate the entire day to it. Don't dedicate your entire life to it. 1 hour. 15 minutes, story and intro. We all come together, we read the story. We talk about, oh, don't you guys love this thing? I do too, but I'm dressed up as 15 minutes of intro and story, 35 minutes of activity stations, mixed in with crafts and physical activity. On a good day, we could run this program at the library I worked at. On a good day, we could run it with 2 adult staff members, 2 teen volunteers, and 1 person working the desk. But as it came on, parents started to like to volunteer, or we got even faster at it and we came up with a station that didn't need somebody to be there, or the big kids wanted to come and be helpers. So the teens would come and be like, I'd like to be a helper for this. I'm here to help. I'm 14 years old and I am basically an adult and I would like to run the Elephant and Piggy coloring station. So again, this takes us back to one thing out of the box, one size fits all. It's just not gonna be like that. Prep ahead of time. We would come up with what every station was going to be, what we needed for every station. This station needs scissors. This station needs tape. This station needs green crayons. This station needs scissors. This station needs tape. This station needs yellow markers. Prep everything ahead of time. We made little baskets, and each basket had the station. This is this station, it's in it. This is this station, it has it. This is this station, it has it. All of that saves you time on the day of. And all of that makes it possible for you to run one of these in small spaces, limited staff. Use the space you have. Do one of my mottos, do what you can with wherever you are, okay? So let's take a look at one we actually did. One that I actually ran multiple times at the library I worked at, multiple times. We had it as Elephant and Piggy Day. We had it as Pigeon Day. We had it as Mo Willems' birthday, multiple times. This takes us back. Someone they're very, very fond of, Mo Willems. Are there activity kits that exist? These are the questions we always ask before we started a program like this. Are there activity kits? There sure are. When we did the Diary of a Wimpy Kid one, when we did the Mo Willems one, some of these real popular ones have their own activity books that you can buy on Amazon that have reproducibles in them. Mo Willems' site has a ton of learn how to draw a pigeon, make your own pigeon puppet. Here's a pigeon coloring page. Here's pigeon art activities. Here's pigeon discussion. Are there ideas on Pinterest? Yes, there are. I typed in Mo Willems pigeon party, Mo Willems party. I don't like that one. That one's too hard. She didn't link to that one. Have other libraries done it? They certainly have. They certainly have. So I would type in Mo Willems party, library. They certainly have. Do they have things that I'm going to do exactly? They do not. And then I sat down with my coworkers, with whoever, and I said, what are we missing? Well, we don't really have a good activity for a Knuffle Bunny. Okay, let's brainstorm a Knuffle Bunny idea. What looks good in Knuffle Bunny? Well, it's the kind of the illustrations. What does the Knuffle Bunny kit do? Well, what supplies do we have left over? Well, step by step, that's how we created each one. Does the work already exist so I don't have to recreate it? Where can I find it? What is missing? Once I have those 3 things in mind, we come back to station 1 in a box, station 2 in a box, station 3 in a box. So what did we do at Mo Willems Day? Let's run the program. We made Piggy and Gerald puppets out of paper bags so that they could talk back and forth to each other. We made a pigeon nest, which I stole from another. I saw an idea of it and I thought that would take too long to dry and I don't have that supply. But what I do have is this. So this is how I'm going to do it. We made Knuffle Bunny art based on the Knuffle Bunny kit. Literally what he said in the Knuffle Bunny kit, we were like, great idea, let's do that. We did deconstructed make your own pigeon, which was literally, we put out blue pieces of paper, we put out black pieces of paper, we put out yellow, and we said, make how you think pigeon looks. There's no step-by-step, there's no instructions, just make it how you think it looks. Make it, just work with the glue, get a touch the scissors. We came up, we found one of the kits, blank Gerald and Piggy pages. We put them out there and said, color Gerald and Piggy and write their dialogue. But you always have to have a physical station, right? Because some kids are not going to want to color, some kids are not going to. So there's a bird on your head. There's a bird on your head. There's a bird on your head. We had an egg drop relay. I got eggs from the East. I got Easter eggs left over. We put them in spoons. They walked them back and forth. They put them in a spoon. They walked it back and forth between buckets. Character hunt. We printed out characters on a piece of paper. We printed out characters and we taped them up around the library, and we gave kids a find sheet and said, go write down where you found each one of those, bring it back to the desk, you get a sticker. So much of what is in the books, the Elephant and Piggy books. Elephants cannot dance. I'm going for a drive. Watch me throw my ball. I am flying. Look at my new toy. There are so many possibilities for movement in those books. It's almost as if he built them that way. He did. Okay. And the thing they really loved about Elephant and Piggy was we showed them how they could read them. So that is me. I am dressed in my gray dress. So I'm Elephant. And Elephant, as you know, is named. What is Elephant's name for those of you who know? Does anybody know in the chat what Elephant's name is? Indeed, it's Gerald. And in case you didn't know, Gerald is named after Mo Willems' favorite singer, Elephant Gerald. Elephant Gerald. I'm Gerald, and my coworker is Piggy. That's why she's wearing a pink shirt. She has tucked into her pocket a scarf because she's gonna cry, and we are reading together out loud like a play dialogue. There's a bird on your head. We had 2 copies of the book. We read it, the parts, and we acted it out. Kids couldn't believe you could do that. It blew their minds. They loved the story part. It was the best part. They would all sit down in front of me and I would read for 15 straight minutes, their favorite part. That's the modified, there's a bird on your head craft. The person I stole it from, she put them in bowls, right? She put a bowl on their head and the kids tied the bowl on there. I thought, I don't have time to wait for the bowl to dry. I do have that leftover packing. Okay, I'm gonna make it the nest on a piece of paper. The bird on their head is Pigeon the bird. Okay, so that's the run of the program. I did 4 or 5 times. Also, one of the reasons you could keep doing this over and over, they would come over and over again, but also they would get older, right? So they would be 4, and then they would come and they'd be 6, and then they would come and they'd be 8, and then they would come and be 10, and then they would come and be 12 to be my volunteers. So I said these programs are for ages 8 to 12. We're starting off with the one that is the youngest geared one, okay? So the youngest kind of age area. I agree. I'm not saying that you should say 8-year-olds shouldn't come to, obviously, this is a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, 6-year-old, all family age program. It's the way you run the events, and it's also how you scale them. Because while the Elephant and Piggy one was for younger, we did ones like this that were about Magic Treehouse, that were about Fancy Nancy, and we would say on those, you have to be 7 or older, or you have to come with a grown-up. Because harder dexterity, longer books, things they're more into. Elephant and Piggy was the younger one because who doesn't love it? But so this is for ages 8 to 18, but especially this is an all age kind of family. So there's Mo Willems Day. But again, talking about the ages, we're talking about celebrating the book. Camp Half-Blood. We had a week full of programs, which we told them they were attending Camp Half-Blood. If you're not familiar, those are the books that the kids attend, or Camp Jupiter. Those are the books the kids attend in the Rick Riordan books. We built a Parthenon out of toilet paper tubes. We figured out who our favorite Greek god was. We talked endlessly about mythology. We did we tried to slay the Hydra. We figured out who our godly parent was. We made Greek coins out of fast molding clay. They came every day for a week. At the end, we all got our little Camp Half-Blood shirts. We had blue food at the party. Okay, American Girl. American Girl, the library I worked at did American Girl for years, and I realized it had grown stagnant. So I rebooted it all. And one of the ways I rebooted it all was by rereading the American Girl books, which I hadn't done in years. I reread them. I was especially drawn to the books about Rebecca because she liked theater and vaudeville, and I like theater. So we made a whole week centered around Rebecca, and we did things like we went to the local community theater and they gave us a tour of the backstage area. One of the local women in our Jewish community had, like Rebecca's family, her family had immigrated from Russia, and she came and talked about her Russian immigrant grandparents, and she also brought tons and tons of the Russian nesting dolls that she collected and talked to them about being Jewish. She brought them challah bread. They ate challah bread. We learned a song from the era that Rebecca was from, and then we performed it in a play for the parents at the end of the week. As opposed to American Girl, we always used to come and be like, yeah, the host Fina was from New Mexico. So are you. Have a good day. I knew to do all that stuff because I reread the books. I was familiar with the material and I could pull ideas from the material instead of being like, American Girls. How do we do registration? We prepped for 20, and if 25 came, we said, great, let's go run off another copy. We were never big on registration. Partially also because you have to figure, so like the thing with like Elephant and Piggy, not all of them are going to want to make Elephant, right? Not all of them are going to want to make the puppets. So you might get 60 kids who come, and 10 of them are going to only want to run around and do the scavenger hunt over and over again. And also when we had extras, we would put them away in the basket and say we're going to do them again, or we would put them out for a craft day. So if we ever had extras, we were never like, it's the end of the world. And that also too is why we came back to easier crafts. I don't have to prepare for anybody for American Girl if what we're doing that day is going and taking a tour of the local theater. So instead of making everything based on do we have exactly enough kits for every single person, so much more than that. Fancy Nancy, a lot of you do that. I also think a T-Rex, which is where you have a T based on, which is T and dinosaurs. Eventually, we just chose a theme and then we chose a book around it. Dinosaurs, dragons, pirates, monsters. This past summer at the library I used to work at, where I'm still obviously all friends with them, they did pigs. They did great pigs from literature. So they had Charlotte's Web and Mercy Watson, and the theme was just like famous pigs from books. Anything like that, anything that turned it into a party. It was a good time. It was a lot of fun. And it segued naturally into the one book idea. So the one book idea, we're not going to say the word book club. We're just not going to say it. We can sometimes say it ironically with teenagers. No, it gets more traditional book club concepts. It can be driven by something they're already into, and it can last for a longer period of time. So a lot of these, even if it was for a week, it was just the week. We didn't do Camp Half-Blood all summer. We didn't do Camp Half-Blood every day for 2 straight months. We didn't do Camp Half-Blood every Thursday in October. This takes a little bit longer. It continues to build the conversation. As an example, those of you who know me know that I'm obsessed with the book Shadow Shaper by Daniel Jose Older. The series we just ended. So good. So we made that one summer the book of the summer for teens, and we called it Shadow Shaper Summer. And it was everywhere. It was everywhere. We had multiple copies of the books. We talked about it at every program. We had posters for it. We had an art contest around it because it's really tied into art. How did I know that? Because I read the book. So much of it, Shadow Shaper, Shadow Shaper, Shadow Shaper. At the end of 2 straight months of talking about Shadow Shaper, we got together for the Shadow Shaper party. We discussed the book. We ate food from the book. We made a craft from the book. We talked about what we liked best about the book. But all summer, months, everywhere you went, everywhere you turned, we're talking about Shadow Shaper. Shadow Shaper Summer, Shadow Shaper Summer, okay? If you don't have time for that kind of thing, this takes us back to one book, the bookstore kind of model. Every time Rick Riordan had a new book that came out, we used this area that we had in the library, and we put a poster or we put a sign up for it, and we said, it's coming on October 6th, we're doing the countdown, and we would tear that down one by one by one, and we'd say, don't forget to reserve a copy. Don't forget to reserve a copy. Hey, did you know the day it comes out, we're going to have a 45-minute cake and ice cream chance to raffle off a copy. Don't forget the copy. So it was constantly in their heads as like, oh my gosh, Mom, did you know that was coming out? Oh my gosh, October 6th, the new Rick Riordan book. Count down the days. So making that one book a center of conversation, a center that they all get to engage in that communal dialogue about. Okay, who do you have that is already interested? I love you for trying to recruit new people, but I want you to take a minute here and be realistic. Who do you have that's already interested? That was a question I asked myself that was hard to come up with the answer to that was I wanted. But the number one thing I realized, who did I have that was interested and wanted me to run programs for them, were my homeschoolers. So I created a program called Home Pages, which they didn't get because the internet was old. But I thought it was funny. Things that are funny really go a long way with me. Home Pages. It was our homeschool-based book club. They met once a month during the day because they were homeschoolers. We alternated between Newbery and Caldecott winners and honor books. If it was a Newbery book, it was for ages 7 and up. We got together, we talked about the book, we talked about the author, fun stuff. If it was Caldecott, We talked about the book. We watched the book sometimes because I had the book on those Scholastic videos. And then we did an art project based on the art style from the book. They lined up out the door for that. They loved it. They all wanted to come to that. The big kids wanted to, everybody wanted to come to that. The high school. There is someone at your high school, in a high school in your community that is close to you, that wants your help. It might only be one teacher, but they want your help. They don't want to read The Old Man and the Sea for the 800th year. They want to do something different. And if you can find that one teacher, if you can ask them, if you can have the YA book club at the high school, if you, as they say, do you remember in Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, when her grandma shows up and her grandma says, mountain wouldn't come to Muhammad, so Muhammad came to the mountain. If you can go to the mountain, if you can find one person there, Project Lit is a nationwide movement to get teenagers in high schools, in classroom settings, reading contemporary literature, which thus changes their lives and makes them reading lifelong readers. I found one teacher in our town that was obsessed with college entrance exams, who was willing to do this. Who are your natural partners? Who's already interested? Here is some shots from home pages. On the left is when we were doing 7 Blind Mice by Ed Young, which was a Caldecott honor book. The art project was based around silhouettes, which is how he did a lot of the art. You can see the cat and mice. And I think, can any of you guess what book the art project on the right is based on? Can any of you guess from looking at that? The New York Public Library just announced it was their most checked out book of all time. Does anybody know what that is? Indeed. It's The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats. You can tell it's Peter, right? Because he's a little snowsuit. Yeah. So these are 2 of the projects we did for home pages, but we did tons and tons and tons of others. We did sculpture. We did any Caldecott book or honor book that we could think of for a project. We did it. Project Lit. You can see one of the things I had framed is that the day that I got them toppers, that was their motto, mascot. The day they put me on the calendar at the high school, that we got to work on this Project Lit together. I brought the Project Lit, I made those up, those were the titles, and I said, circle the ones you're most interested in. The high school bought copies, the public library bought copies, the English teachers bought copies, and I went to the high school instead of having them come to the library. It's one of the programs that's continued since I left Los Alamos. It is one of the most popular ones. The homeschool group, I see there's a question in the homeschool group. First of all, we didn't really, the Newbery books, they had to be 7 years old because they had to have read the book. So we said 7 and up. You can go in the library and play, you can do something else. So it's 7 to 12. And the Caldecott one was all ages. They could come in at 3 years old and we would have a little art project for them to play. And it was so popular, the Newbery one was so popular that after I left, they started a teen homeschool book club, which was then 13 to 18 because they had aged out of going to home pages for so long. It was so popular. And that was that and this, these are programs that I'm super popular, that I'm super proud went on when I was gone. So this again, who are your natural allies, right? Who is gonna wanna invest in you? So much of this is built on excitement. I'm not telling you anything is wrong with book clubs, okay? But it can sound too formal, and that's what we're trying to get away from. I'm not into book clubs. Oh, do you wanna hang out and talk about Marvel? Guess what? You're part of this. Great, I have a stack of comics this big, come chit chat. Celebrations, community. So even this Project Lit is based on the idea lit of literature, but also lit that it's hot. Yeah, I'm not into book club at school, but I love Project Lit. Celebrations, community, those are the things we're trying to build with this. So that's the thing, Shadow Shaper Summer. Shadow Shaper Summer was just a book club about Shadow Shaper, okay? It was a book club for Shadow Shaper that took 2 months, but we didn't make it sound like that, okay? Oh my gosh, what a perfect opportunity. Had you heard about All Iowa Reads? They're titles selected for you by librarians from across the state that we think make great book club titles. And we have 10 copies of each that you can request. We even have short lists, which are other titles we think lend themselves. And you know how you can find out if they're a fit? You can read them. So this is All Iowa Reads. This is a picture of this year's children and teen set. The children's selection is Parker Inheritance. The teen set is Hey Kiddo. Here's how you can reserve a set. okay? Again, you're gonna get this contact information in this slide deck. Contact your LRT, here we go. Okay, we're coming into the home stretch. Here we go. Lots of books, big genres. Again, comes all back to this culture of reading. Look, these are my kids, right? The place we can go to talk about the books. One time at TAG, which is what our teen group was called, the Teen Advisory Group, but you can call it whatever you want, Teen Advisory Council, the Youth Advisory Council, the League of Cool People, they all have their own names. I heard a group of them talking and one of them said to each other, I've never even been to a party. And the other one said, coming to this is like a party. And she said, yeah, like a nerd party. She was like, yeah, that's our kind of party. The kind of stuff we're into, you can create a safe, welcoming space. Here's the thing. This doesn't have to be a group of 45 kids, but every time I did this, when one class would graduate, I would start with the next class. We would have one or two, and then one or two would bring a friend, and then one or two would bring a friend, and then one or two would bring a friend, and they would stay with me until they got through. They would stay with me and stay with me and stay with me. I'm not telling you this is going to be every kid in your town. I'm not telling you this is going to be every kid in your library, but this is a base core that we build from, right? These are two pictures I always love. This is, I would set up when I would gather free books. I'm a big free book hoarder. I would gather free books. I would gather old advanced copies. And at the end of the summer, we would have a big party. And this is them. Every year they would fight over them. We would let them loose and they would fight over them because they were books they got to keep forever. So I love this. I have a video of them where they're like pushing each other out of the way. That culture of reading. They would get to see the brand new to the library books before anybody else. That alone made them feel like the hottest kids in the town. They would check out 10 or 15 of them, even if they were only going to read 3 or 4. And that was great with me because it was awesome for my circulation numbers. And also it continued the conversation about reading. The picture on the left is a pile of books from one kid. Maybe they weren't going to take them all. They don't know. They might take all of them. They might only read 3 of them. They might read 1. They hate it. We just encourage that. Look at all these new books. They're here for you. This is the fun thing you get to get. This is a safe place for you to be. It's a safe place for you to be a nerd, and it's a safe place for you to care about stuff. That's the John Green thing, where you care about things, where you care about something, and you understand that these are the other kids, the kids that get picked on or pushed around at school or made fun of because they want to check out 10 books. You can be a space for them. And it might be a small group, but it's a group that's going to matter. The single author or series club. So this is a photo from when we did a club that was all about mythology. So every time we would come and we would talk about actual Norse myths, or some of this is like Indian mythology or Chinese mythology, the genre. Everybody's gonna come this week and we're all gonna talk about fantasy. Everybody's gonna come this week and we're all gonna talk about manga. We don't have to all read the same manga, but I'm gonna have a big pile of it and you get to talk about it. You are driving it. We had the Wings of Fire book club, which they asked could like they meet every day, and we were like, no. We had an I Survived club where we would give them challenges and be like, can you survive this with 5 things? We had the comic book club where at the end we were like, hey, would you guys like to maybe talk about drawing your own comics? Yeah, we would, more than anything. So those kind of things, instead of like, we're not going to talk about one Wings of Fire book, you're going to come and talk about all of them. We're not going to talk about one specific I Survived book. We're going to talk about all of them. Which one is your favorite? We put the pictures of all of them on the wall and said, vote for your favorite I Survived book. We put the pictures of the different kinds of dragons. We took tests. Which kind of dragon are you? An ice dragon or are you a fire dragon? Let's all talk about who's an ice dragon or a fire dragon. That kind of larger picture, that genre-based focus. And what does that all come back to? Voice and choice. Voice and choice. What are they into? What do they want to talk about? That at that Wings of Fire thing, they ended up wanting to talk. I had read one Wings of Fire book. They ended up talking the entire time about ice dragons, or like that they would be a cloud dragon or something. And I was like, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, no, tell me more. Yeah, no. Voice and choice. Voice and choice. It's when we invest the most in things. It's when we say at TAG, do you want to do this? What are you into? It depends on what kind of book club you're running. Do you have structured discussion or do you let them have at it? I think I always, first of all, that takes us back to you have to have read the book. You have to have read the book. That's just the way it is. You can write out a handful of questions because at some point they're going to get stuck and you're going to have to talk to them about them. So you can write out a handful of questions. You also have to make sure that one kid doesn't dominate it. That's the other reason you need to have read the book and you need to be able to discuss it. And you have to have a set of questions written out because you can't let one kid, the Angie Manfredi as it were, you can't let them dominate. So I think it's kind of a combination on that. But even in cases like this, when you're like, we're talking about I Survived, you have to have at least passing material to be able to drive it in the way you want. Oh, so you're really interested in being a fire dragon. Why are you more interested? Why is everybody here? Let's all go around and say why we're more interested in, like, what kind of dragon we're most interested in. So you have to be able to at least take a control that way. Okay, you're ready to do it. You're ready. We're at the end of it. We made this. Everybody's feeling hyped. Okay, everybody's feeling ready. Are you feeling excited? Do you have ideas going? Start where you are, my friends. Work with what you have or can't easily access. And this takes us all the way. Remember what I said at the beginning, come up with one clear project. I just threw a ton of ideas at you because that's how I think we get our best ideas and also because that's what I do. But come up with one clear project out of here. You can re-watch this. You can look at the slide deck when you get it. You can email me questions, but come up with one clear project you want to try to pursue. Start asking and start looking. It took me years. It took me years to get that Project Lit Club going at the high school. But the whole time I was looking and I was asking and I had my ears out. Who's the one teacher that's going to let me in? Who's the one teacher that's going to make them stop reading The Old Man and the Sea? So you might have one clear project, but you always got to have your ear out. Oh man, they're all really talking about Pete the Cat. Oh boy, they're all really talking about Dog Man. Got to always have your ear out. So don't forget to. Don't repeat work. There are already guides out here. Somebody has already tried it. Somebody already has an example you can print out. Do not repeat work. All of this. This means just not for how you talk about it to the public, but also how you're saying inside yourself. You are having a celebration. You are not completing a chore. This is something exciting and cool and fun and worth coming in for. It's not a chore. It's not an assignment. You don't have to take an AR test at the end of it. We can talk about Dog Man the whole time and then eat cake, which takes me to my final. Pace yourself. That takes us back to focus. You don't have to do all of this at once, okay? Pace yourself, except for when it comes to sugar. That is a picture of a real thing when I was shopping for Teen Group one time, and I ran into one of my adult friends at the store, and they were like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna eat all this. I'm gonna eat all this right out my car in the parking lot. I'm just gonna eat it all." We did if you ever want a good time, I made them taste test the Pop-Tarts. It was the most exciting day of their life. I had a toaster. I said, "We can heat the Pop-Tarts toasted." Okay. Here's a resource list. Don't repeat work. Don't repeat work. Do not recreate work. These are all clickable links. It's going to come in the slide deck. Jayberry book character roundup with parties. A lot of my blogs are listed on there. If you've never seen my blog before, it's called Fat Girl Reading. Ology parties. One of my old library friends, S. Bryce Kozla, she used to do, they always got out on their early days, so she based them on those ology books. So she had Piratology, Grossology, Wizardology. Children's Book Week, they have tons of great ideas for how to celebrate books. Celebrate books. Ontarian librarian, she's a librarian in Canada. She has an amazing Dogman party up there. The part that I'm obsessed with her Dogman party, she got a bunch of Cocoa Crisp, she got a bunch of Cocoa Puffs, and she put them in bowls and it looks like dog chow. Ask authors to participate. That's a whole other thing we can do a whole other time. I can make you a whole other session. Ask authors to participate. My teen book club, I should have also told you at the end of Shadow Shaped Summer, Daniel Jose Older recorded a little thing for us that the kids got to watch after they've read it all summer. There are authors in Iowa who would love to come talk to your book club. Some of you have had Darren Crow. He does scary stories. There's this book of Edgar Allan Poe stories called His Hideous Heart. It's retold Edgar Allan Poe stories. Think how well those would go together for a teen program at Halloween, okay? And you give them food, what? So that is a link to the Iowa Center for the Books Iowa author list. Iowa authors have themselves listed there. And ask your fellow Iowa librarians There's a really fun thread recently on Library Talk where we talked about this, and Phyllis Peter from Newton, she posted the coolest party for a Very Hungry Caterpillar. And the minute I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, you could have a whole Eric Carle party. Think of all the Eric Carle parties. You could have Hungry Caterpillar, you could have the Blue Horse, you could have Brown Bear, an Eric Carle party. Totally cool idea from Phyllis Peter. She posted pictures, she answered everybody's questions about it, and that kind of talking starts you thinking. That's why we listed all the books that are already popular in your library. It gets you seeing what other people are into. It gets those ideas going, and then you all have the ability to go out there and create the things that work for the spaces that you have, that work for the time that you have, that work for the staff you have. That's what the flexibility means. That you can take that really great Eric Carle idea and you'll be like, well, I don't have time to do these other two things she did, but I do have this, and we're going to call it the Eric Carle party. That's a big part of it, and we're going to go from there. So yes, I'm going to say, Rebecca, if you could email me about Project Lit, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. There's a lot of that is located online. They don't have their own website, which is annoying, but we do what we can. So yes, join us for Kids First. Registration is open for Kids First. We have crossed the 100 mark. There's over 100 people registered. There's like 120 people registered. It's going to be amazing. Imagine 2 full days of this, 2 full days of this, or just one if you can only attend one. We're going to have 3 amazing authors, 1 amazing librarian as our keynote. It's going to be fantastic. I'm super psyched. Please join us. Register for Kids First if you haven't registered already. It's going to be so cool. Next session, PopYS, is already open. You can go into the catalog and sign up for next month. Next month, we're going to have a guest speaker. If you haven't already heard, Stephanie Dross from the Iowa Department of Education is going to be here to talk to you all about summer food service. So this is like the perfect time for this. Kids First does cover all ages both days. So it is not just a kid day and a teen day. Both days are going to have programs for 0 to 18 because you know how I feel about that. Teens are my babies. So next month, Pop First registration is open today. You can register right now. Remember, if you miss them, they are recorded. I think this is going to be really great. It's going to be amazing. Thank you for dropping it in the link. This is my annotated copy of Hey Kiddo. So when somebody asked about book discussion guides, again, that's a thing so many librarians have already created. So like that's a thing. One of my side hustles is writing author guides for publishers. It's a good time, but it's annoying. It's not annoying. It's like the best side job. Anyway, so you get the discussion questions for Hey Kiddo already inside them. So if you're nervous about how you run a book club, what do you ask them at a book club? This is an example of how I read the book, and every one of those turned out to be a question. So please get in contact with me. This was our first time ever. Oh, we did it, and it's 2 o'clock. We hit it. Sam's going to send you this slide deck. Please get in contact with me with more questions. I believe in you totally. I hope you enjoyed this PopYS. I hope you have a lot of ideas going in your brain. Too many ideas. Thank you so much for coming. This was amazing. And I know that you can do something great and something fantastic for your library and your community based around books. Just have faith that you can do it. And it's okay if you mess up. And it's okay if you don't know everything. This is how we start.